One eye open, one eye closed. Questions being asked over and over and over again. What have we done to deserve this neglect from the people who have sworn to protect us? The state of insecurity in Nigeria has become beyond distressing. One moment you're worried about kidnappings, another moment tens, 20s, 30s. That's the number you hear in the news. People, we've even gotten to a point where we're hearing hundreds of people being killed, especially in Middle Belt, Nigeria. I'm talking about Jos Plateau State. Earlier today, there was an attack. Late last night, there was an attack in Plateau State. Reports say that over 30 people, or at least 30 people, were killed. Most of them, women and children. Now, apparently, the victims sought refuge in the house of a community leader after an earlier bout of unrest in Mangu town. Now, of all the attacks we've heard, in the past, none has happened in Mangu town. But tragically, the gunmen found them and attacked them in the course of the night. Today, joining us all the way from the city of Jos Plateau State is Director of Civil Liberties Organization. It's a human resource and development and consultancy firm. He's the principal partner of Daskit Consult, Aluko, Comrade Aluko Steve Obesi. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
My pleasure. A happy new year to everyone.
Well, I would have loved to say same to you, but considering there's a 24-hour curfew, less than 30 days getting into the new year, in the place where you're in, considering the fact that now is nighttime and several Nigerians are having their hearts race as sleep evades them, I'm afraid I cannot say same to you. How is the situation in Jos Plateau State as we speak?
I think it's very important we get it clear that the problem on the plateau for some time now has not been more in Jos, it's on the rural area, and especially the Bokos, the Mangu area, and then some other out of urban center area. It's a coordinated attack. And I think this is not the first time. It's of a predictable pattern. Year in, year out, during festivity, this type of attack comes up, especially when it recedes in neighboring states. You can easily predict it's coming to the Plateau State and a lot of border town and border local government. So it's not just main town, it's not the capital that is having challenge now. It's the rural. That does not mean there's no security challenge in Jos, but it's not of the great magnitude of what we are beginning to see in other regions like Mangu, Bokos, and Bartuladi. So if you put all this together, they are predictable pattern. And it's a deliberate act to commit gruesome murder of the innocent and deliberate attempt by enemy of the state and enemy of the country to drag this country into a lot of crisis. And I think, let me tell you that we're just lucky that the Supreme Court judgment goes contrary. This type of people will have been waiting at the end so that they can unleash terror in the name of political calculation or miscalculation. So what am I saying in essence? Government have not done the needful to integrate the security architecture for the rural populace and to involve every Nigeria. So in most cases, once they are able to secure the urban center to Abuja, then they feel Nigeria is safe. And I think we must change the narrative beyond that. And also say that it's not just a plateau or North Central problem. It's a national problem that must be swiftly addressed, not just shedding crocodile tears or giving others that are not accountable or others that are not responsive. The duty of every government at all levels is to secure life and property and promote the welfare of the citizens. And when government fail at whatever level we have it, it's regrettable that it's telling us that Nigeria is tending to the act of a failed state. It's already a failing state that can be arrested. But if all the security architecture and everyone that is involved does not bring to bear the need to have peace within Nigeria and to have a united front against the enemy outside Nigeria, I think it may just be a repeated decimal that we sometimes take ethnic coloration or religious correlation. So these are tensions that are on. And I want to also say quickly that declaring curfew 24 hours have not helped situation. The best is to prevent it. Because in most cases you declare curfew, and the enforcement becomes a challenge. And people also take advantage of that as a state of emergency, take advantage of that curfew to maim and destroy more life. So I think the issue of declaring state of 24-hour curfew is of a military fiat, and it's not enough. The best thing is intelligent gathering, effective analysis, and deployment to prevent the act in the first place. Sustainable education, peaceful education is key, and they need to promote harmonious living within the people. We can't run away from it. So the problem is on the part of government majorly, and the problem is on the part of the people, not having a united front to confront the miscreants or the enemies within the fold. I think this is a major challenge, and the earlier we draw this map and begin to extend it to other regions and other states of the country is very important. And we must not make excuse for either the president, the security forces, or the governor of the state. We've seen what other governors are doing, empowering their people. Some of them have been wanting to say they bought arms for their people to defend themselves. Why don't we have it on the plateau? We must have it, because it has greatly changed that the security architecture of this country can no longer hold, except there's some level of decentralization and deliberate empowerment and regulatory framework that will guide against the culture of impunity. We must get to that point. And the state governor will do the needful, the federal government will do the needful, and the security agent must be up in their game by being professional in all their engagement.
All right, thank you very much for that submission there, Comrade. Now, let's talk about the preparedness of the security operatives while this happened. I remember there was a time that the Chief of Army Staff, Toid Lagbaja, moved to Mangu local government sometime last year to, curtail all of this. And now that this has reoccurred, this isn't the first time it's reoccurring, neither is it the second time that it's reoccurring. How prepared would you say that, security operatives are in combating this menace? This is not the first, like I said, this is not the first time it's happening.
First and foremost, we start with what Lagbaja did. Number one, I said it that time, either on this platform or other platform, we must not over-celebrate the movement of one individual or catchment of security agent to one area. The essence is to protect life 24 hours in a day and 365 days in a year. And the fact is that we must be able to put in place permanently a security mechanism that will prevent the crime. It's not after the crime is committed, you are redeployed. So in terms of preparedness, I must tell you that Nigeria as a state, we are not prepared to fight these enemies wherever they are and wherever they reside. Secondly, the security architecture is already overstretched. And then the process of also recruitment and promotion is not rewarding as expected. There's no sanction where there are cases of negligence or complicity on the part of the military or other security forces. We must be able to say that our security architecture thus far, from what we've seen, is not prepared to tackle the problem. Because if it is prepared to tackle the problem, they will have the mechanism in place permanently. And when there are information, they are able to act to prevent the crime, not when numbers of innocent citizens are killed. Be they child or woman, his life is about humanity. So as far as I'm concerned, the level of preparedness of governance to take this issue is abysmal level. The level of preparedness of the security forces to constructively engage is also questionable. Because I can tell you our military people, they go outside this country, our police or other paramilitary agencies go outside this country and they come back with glory of being the very best. Then how come they come to Nigeria, they cannot reenact the same thing? The problem is, in most cases, they are not prepared to face the challenge. Even when they are prepared, the deployment becomes an issue. And the command structure is also a problem. And it's very, very important with what we are beginning to see, the flashpoint we are beginning to see in Abuja. It's in the interest of those in Abuja to do the needful. Otherwise, it's just a matter of God forgive and God forbid what happened in Afghanistan to happen in Nigeria. This is how they circled the state capital in Afghanistan. Before you know, they took on the state machinery. And before you know, they took over government. I'm talking about, we are students of history of international politics. It has happened in other countries. So it's not just the battle of Plateau. It's not just the battle of the North Central. It's a deliberate orchestrated plan to weaken the security machinery within the North Central, so that at any point they can take on the office of the presidency and other people. But unfortunately, people are not aware. And people are playing kid glove with this security matter. If they don't arrest what is happening in North Central, it's a matter of time. It will consume the elite in Abuja, especially the political elite.
There are controversies around this being a political issue, considering that most of the attacks on Mangu local government started after the governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, won the elections and got into, power. And, he's been there not too long, and he is from Mangu local government. What are your thoughts towards this? That's the first conspiracy I would like you to address. And the second conspiracy is around, the Plateau State being a target location because of how rich it is in both, agriculture and mineral resources.
I think I'll take the last theory. That either you like it or not, resource, where the resource of the people is not used for the benefit of the people, the enemy takes advantage. We've seen what happened in Ibadan.
You have less than 1 minute for this call.
Pulling himself on the plateau. Either you like it or not, the theory of grasping of land, and not just land, the resources beneath the land and the resources on the land is a factor. You can't push it away. We've had it everywhere, and that of the plateau will not be an exception. And secondly, to the theory of the political miscalculation and the rest, let me tell you, the answer is yes and no. Yes, in the sense that every craft of governance, you always have somebody either as a merchant of illicit way of getting power. You can't take that away. We knew part of the banter that went on before the Supreme Court ruling. People boasting and people swearing on the grave of their father and mother. So,
Well, I'll let our technical crew take care of that, and we'll get back to that conversation. Still on the matter, Chinwe Blessing, I literally just remembered I didn't introduce myself at the start of the conversation. I think I was taken by my emotions. I apologize for that. And in line with that, I am not the only one on the show today. Of course, we have VOP in-house analyst and political economist Adefolari Olamilekon. Thank you for joining us.
Very good evening to you, and very good evening to all our listeners out there.
I mean, it's a very sad thing happening in Plateau State, don't you think?
Very well.
I mean, this isn't the first time. This is not the second time. This is the same state that experienced hundreds of people, killed in cold blood just less than a month ago. Less than a month ago.
Exactly.
And we saw a lax response. Sorry, I'm getting right, we're getting right into it. We saw a lax response from especially the federal government, and permit me to say that, considering that, after that happened, the president didn't deem it fit to go there himself, show presence and be like, oh, something is going on here. We saw him going to launching of books, and then after that he went to Uzodimma's second
Exactly.
term inauguration. Very, very lax attitude right there. And of course, the two things he went to do are, if you look at it, they are party affairs. Now, Plateau State is said to be a PDP state. Are we now politicizing the lives of Nigerians, seeing that this attack happened maybe coincidentally, but when the president decided to go on a private visit to France?
I want you most understand about the way the president or the presidency office moves, is that they determine where they go based on maybe the briefing on security, briefing from their security handlers and the rest of them. But that doesn't rule out the exception that he has to visit places where we have issues, particularly issues of killing, issues of people suffering from herdsmen, vigilante, whatever you want to call the names of this kind of people that are causing this havoc in the country. The president have to visit them. Although I will not also put the blame on the president Tinubu. If you check past, even President Buhari, when he was in power, this is the same latitude of APC leadership when it comes to visiting country, part of the country that have been devastated by evil works of the enemy of the country. But they don't do. But I just hope that Tinubu will repent and he will take a new leaf and begin to visit that aspect. But I really love the way our guest from Jos was able to analyze and put this issue into perspective. But I'll go deeper into when this crisis in Jos happened. I knew how many times peace are called, all manner of conferences, seminars been put in place so that peace can return to Jos. And I also remember that this crisis of killing and maiming people in Jos went far back to 2003 to 2007 and became so active between 2010 and 11 that an emergency was even declared in Plateau State.
State of an emergency.
Emergency was declared in Plateau State then. But up till now, peace have not returned because of what? The second theory that you raise about land grabbing, resource taking and the rest of them is what is fueling some of these issues or some of these crises in Plateau State. I will just hope that the government in power can be able to nip this in the bud. Where I normally disagree with people is this. When we are analyzing Nigerian security architecture and say our military have been overstretched, they are not overstretched. There is nothing like that they have been overstretched. The problem is that they have not been efficiently used.
I mean, we have hundreds of police operatives and not just police, security operatives guarding individuals
up and down. So well, it was the overstretched. The issue is that we have not been able to use them effectively and efficiently in a way that we can correct some of these abnormality when it comes to attack on the people, particularly in rural areas. You know, one thing that we have missed out is this. When anybody is saying we should have state police, even if we have state police and that state police not strategically established to tackle rural violence and community clashes and the rest of them, there is no way they will succeed. And one of the things that we can quickly be able to apprehend is to ensure that we have a strategic state police or we have a strategic national police that can have a stronger intelligence. What happened in Mangu, although at the time the governor pulled that coffee out, the numbers of people that were dead were not known. But I was surprised that at the end of the day, they are raising up to 30. And I was asking myself, before the governor put that coffee out, what kind of intelligence did he receive? And for me, I'm beginning to be suspicious of what is happening there, because if the attack took place in areas whereby it is people who are supposed to be living peacefully, it means that they need to look at the people themselves. What is happening to the people themselves? Because there's this thing that we mistakenly left over when we are analyzing Benue crisis. But recently, we now discovered that it is even the people themselves that are constituting the challenge for themselves.
How do you mean?
This is what happened. The Tiv and Idoma area of the state, when former governor, what his name was in power, Orton was in power, there was militia groups that were established to undo certain security architecture of the state. And the militia group broke into different militia groups. And what were they fighting for? How to control territories. Then before the military now declare war on the militia group, then when the militia group discovered that they don't have any other place to go, they begin to attack community that was giving information to the military. So the Plateau case now, what happened in Mangu with the level of deployment that happened in December, nobody is expecting this kind of thing to happen so soon. But what is the level of intelligence and what is the level of communication between the people, their leadership, especially their traditional rulers, and visitors into that place? Because at this point in time, who is giving who information about the movement of people, about the peaceful nature of the place, that they will not have a serene opportunity to come and attack? But when the East intelligence is not there, definitely the enemies will normally sneak in and carry out the attack. So that's why I said the people themselves must begin to examine themselves and begin to find out what is really wrong with us as people. Because if you are waiting for the government to solve the problem, from now till Jericho, government will still be playing games.
Is that not where the problem is? How much can civilians do by the law?
What we need to understand around the civilian is this: when it comes to the supply of intelligence on how to police your community by yourself, before the government will come, intelligence in terms of people coming in, there are strange individuals, there are strange faces that are coming into that local government, coming into that area, isolated area there, that attack can take place. What are the people doing? You know, there was a time that would say anybody that comes to a particular community, they should first ensure that they report themselves to the traditional rulers.
I mean, we've spoken about that.
It.
But then how safe are even the houses of the traditional rulers? Because the people that were attacked in Mangu local government, they hid in a community leader's house, and then they were discovered there and then slaughtered.
Then you ask yourself, how did those people begin to move in daylight to the period of the night they begin to attack?
We've been rejoined by Comrade Aluko. Thank you for rejoining us, sir.
My pleasure, always.
Thank you very much. Now, back to where we were. We were talking about the controversies surrounding these attacks that have been heavily meted on Mangu local government, to be specific. We know that before now, attacks were mainly around Miango, Bokos, Barikin Ladi, Access, Riom, and whatnot. But now they are moving towards Mangu local government, and we know that the new governor of Plateau State is from that local government, as well as you already shed light on the controversy of this being an attack on the natural resources that Plateau State and north central Nigeria holds. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Politically, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that either you like it when you don't use the statecraft very well, enemies of the state will take advantage. And let me quote what Abacha said. Abacha said when there is insurgency or militancy or negative aggression that lasts beyond 24 hours, there must be complicit on the part of the state. And by state, either by state actor or non-state action. Especially now in Nigeria, that the non-state actor has taken over every crime. And without regulated framework, you can't bring it out in. And like I said, before the Supreme Court judgment, there were a lot of skirmishes in terms of verbal war, in terms of emotional war, people swearing by their father's grief, swearing on their blood, swearing on their birth, that they are going to get the verdict on for the APC candidate. And they are from that place. So you can't rule it out. That's one. But no to the intent and purpose that we've seen on the Plateau and the North Central crisis moving from one section of the state to the other, not because the president on the seat is the governor. So, and I think we must not only hold on that theory, we must be able to interrogate that theory very well. And if the governor or anybody in the state is saying it's purely political, then the question we should ask, what was their response? Did they link up with the security agency to point out certain individual or group before now? And what is the response? So politically, yes and no. But let me tell you, from what happened after the Supreme Court ruling, there was celebration across the whole state. The Muslims were celebrating, the Christians were celebrating, the Hausa were celebrating, the Fulani were celebrating, the Native were celebrating. So you must just find a way, a problem somewhere. And we must not just be sweeping the problem under the carpet until we have a standing mechanism to rebuff evil or to punish evil, to arrest evil and punish evil, so that we serve as a deterrent to other people. As long as people are escaping and they are not being caught, or people succeed in their evil machination and occupy the land of other people. Another theory that we must also interrogate, yes, resources is issue, but land factor must also come to bear. Because we also have cases of land grabbing, where people have complained that some criminal elements have taken over their native land and nothing has been done by the state. So it must go beyond just the Mangu issue or not the Mangu issue. We must be able to interrogate all the necessary factors that are involved and be able to punish evil. Because whatever arrangement you are having in place, if there is no sense of justice, if there is no enforcement of law and order, you are just embodying the evil. The scripture says that when righteous sentences are not speedily enforced, it will harden the heart of man to do evil. So it's very important that those in the craft of state and governance in the state and at the national level must do the needful. And the office of the president cannot excuse himself. He's the commander of the armed forces. And the earlier they nip this, the better. Otherwise, Abuja will not be safe for anybody, including the Aso Rock.
All right, comrade, we got you there. Now, moving forward from this, although it is really difficult to, we've seen situations where after these kinds of attacks are being carried out in these places, people do not return to the attacked villages. They end up in IDP camps. I mean, we have people in IDP camps that have been there since 2017, and they haven't returned to their homes. What do we do to make sure post-attacks like this, the victims, the survivors are being... Yes.
First and foremost is to say that, look, let me tell you, I've been on the Plateau from the early 20s. A lot of people have been displaced from the first crisis of 2001. And government have not served justice and government have not resettled them. So it's not just in IDP camp. A lot of people just fizzle out of IDP camp to close associates and some people to their religious people that shows empathy. A lot of people have been displaced on the Plateau since 2021. And government have not done the needful to resettle these people, especially in established cases where their native land has been taken over by criminal elements and the state factors have not been able to go there to flush them out. So this is a major factor. So if we're talking about the survivor, I was in Jute, that is just University Teaching Institute the other day, and I saw what some government official brought for those that are even under treatment, having treatment in Jute. To be sincere, it's not what we can tell ourselves on air. It's not commendable. So apart from making media show after every attack, we'll do this, we'll do that. In terms of settlement of the displaced person, either as individual or family as group, I can tell you that 60% of it have not been done. And when we are talking about settlement, it's not anyhow settlement. You give people 4 roofing sheets. Somebody that has 3-bedroom bungalow, you are giving 4 roofing sheets to cover where? Only the toilet seat or what? And then you are giving sometimes the women in the IDP camp, their basic needs is not being, there's no tissue for them, there's no place for them to pass their visit, and for even people going through menstrual cycle, the trauma is there. And that is why I wonder what will become of Nigeria in the next 5, 10, 20 years, when a lot of people, citizens, will be traumatized by what we are seeing and the rest of it. So we must begin to ask, what can we do? Everybody must be involved. And part of the involvement is to prevent it. And where we fail to prevent it, either as government or as community leader, we should be able to mitigate the impact so that the cycle of violence will not continue. Thirdly, we must be able to take charge of the forest. Why will people come overnight, maim people and disappear? It's because we've not been able to take advantage of the economy of the forest. And this is where we must be able to have a mechanism in place that can enter any forest and comb any criminal element out of the forest. It's very, very important. We must also have people that know the topography of the plateau. It's not just people you are bringing from Abuja, they won't understand it. There must be collective collaboration between the security agencies and the civilian populace. So it's not just the might alone. The might should be used, but at the same time, you must be able to integrate the people into the security architecture that you are having. They know the terrain more than anybody. They can give you prompt information. You do the analysis and do the necessary deployment. The most vulnerable community and local government, I expected by now that government should have a flash, those identify the flash points across Plateau and be able to build up a security mechanism, a buffer zone, a safe haven for people to take at first aid attention so that before they have reinforcement from other places. But beyond that, there must be continuous peace education. The need for people to live in harmony. The need for people not to live in segregated settlement, so that at the end of the day, there's some level of integration. So that at the end of the day, I pray we will not have the crisis where people have to raise up arms on themselves. It's not enough for government to be going around and saying they catch somebody constructing arms and the rest of it. If government is not ready to do the needful, they should make sure that Nigeria have access to weapons to defend themselves. This one fact that this one debate that we must hold with. When we don't have enough personnel, we don't have enough equipment to back up, then we must be able to liberalize the process of people getting guns so that local government chairman can now be able to organize their people under a collective regulatory framework so that it's not abused by the politician, so that they will serve as a first front of repelling this evil. Because why the level of destruction have not gone to the maximum that this criminal element wanted is because some people have been able to repel them that with stones and sticks. So government should take up the responsibility, use the security board, raise up an army of people and empower them to do the needful. The governor of Katsina is celebrating his own. Why should other state government not do it? And we have the Operation Rainbow on the Plateau. Why can't we improve their capacity and support them to make sure that they are not infiltrated by criminal elements and they are empowered to prevent and defend the people? Let the local government have their own security architecture. Let the states have. We cannot run away from state policing. We cannot run away from community policing. We cannot run away from neighborhood policing. But we must not place it in the hands of political criminals. There must be a regulatory framework that will demand accountability on the side of the people, not on the side of the people in government, because the people that are suffering the casualty. And let me tell you, if we don't realize it, the Inspector General of Police is launching this ISIS in Abuja. It shouldn't be only Abuja. We need it everywhere. And where we don't have the personnel to support it, get the civilian populace and integrate them into the mechanism. And you see how effective it will be.
Thank you very much, Comrade, for joining us, and thank you for giving us updates about what is going on the Plateau. We'll do well to reach out to you to find out more as it goes. And we really do hope that peace would be restored on the Plateau.
That's our prayer, not just for the Plateau, for the whole country. And that's why all of us must turn to God in this new year. Beyond what we are doing, we need God to excel.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
And that was a conversation we had with, Comrade Aluko Daniel Steve Osebi, the Director of Civil Liberties Organization and principal partner of Dask T Consults, all the way from Jos Plateau State. Currently, the state is under a 24-hour curfew. Back to you in the studio, Adefolari. What do you think about, placing a curfew, a 24-hour curfew, whenever it is that there's a crisis situation, because that is starting to become a habit?
But for me, it's not working. That's a major challenge. Just like the comrade have highlighted that most times, even the criminal element take advantage of this curfew. 24 hours coffee, meaning that people will sit in their houses. But guess what? If you go to that Mangu local government now, people are not sitting in their houses. They are in front of their houses. You get it? Because they must survive, they will eat, they will drink. They have to make other means of ensuring that they are well okay. So
I'll tell you this. I have experienced this before. An attack happened in a neighboring community close to where I used to live with my family on the Plateau. And we didn't sleep 3 days. I cannot begin to express the amount of fear, the anxiety when you don't know what is going to happen next. And that is what these people are being exposed to right now. It is unfair to the people. It's something has to be done about.
Definitely, something have to be done. That's why maybe in the eyes of the governor, in the wisdom of the governor, imposing curfew will also restrict some certain activities in there, but it doesn't solve the problem. See, one of the things that we have not been able to appreciate is the intelligence in our security architecture. I was mentioning that the people themselves, these people in Mangu, whether residents, whether indigenous, whether foreigners, whether visitors, they have a responsibility to protect themselves. Because what is happening is that when there is loose intelligence in the state or in any part of the country, then the enemies will strike. Just like rightly pointed out, those people who were killed were traced to a particular house. How did they know that they were in that house? That means there is an enemy information going out of among themselves. So they have to treat that one very well. And you know, when the community was talking about community policing, neighborhood policing, this is the architecture whereby we can strengthen our intelligence in terms of how to police our area. But when that is not well placed, there is going to be a challenge. I just hope that the governor of Plateau State will go beyond placing coffee, but rather work intelligently to see how they can sniff out the enemy. Because as far as some of us are concerned, the people committing those crimes live among the people because they are not outsiders. I just made mention of the issue of the Benue. Do you know that when we begin to unravel the incidents in Benue State, it was discovered that it is just community fighting against community because of land, and they will hire machineries to go and commit crime against another community. So we just want to hope that this will not be what is also happening in Jos, so that in Plateau State, so that some certain individuals want to eliminate certain people so they can take over their land.
I mean, it'll quite unlikely that is the situation, considering we've had a wide range of local governments and where this is happening. It's not just one local government area it's happening. It's happened in well over 7. Over 78 over the space of 8-10 years.
Exactly.
It's repeatedly happened. And the common denominator of this is when certain places are attacked, when communities are attacked, the people who used to live there, the natives, cannot return.
That's it. And you discover that new people will come in. Then you now ask yourself, the new people that are coming, how do they now quickly understand the terrain very well?
Most of the time, I can say for places like Riomberkin, Ladi local government, and Mangu local government, which are the ones that I know that I did in-depth research about, you would find out that these people used to live amongst them, but not in the immediate community. So they are not necessarily coming from outside.
Exactly.
They are people that who is attacking you, which is why we keep asking the government, what are you doing about this? When you go and interview people, you hear them say, we know these people. The police, the military, they come and arrest them. After 2 weeks, we see them walking around.
That is where we have problem of justice. Justice in a sense that but the 2001 that Comey made mention of what happened in Plateau State, the 2001, 2003, then 2007, there were a lot of individuals that were picked up by the security forces even before the state of emergency was declared. Ask me, how many of them are serving jail terms? None. But do you know what we end up hearing? It was what they call it. There's a language they use. Is it reversal attack, or you attack me, I attack you, because you came reprisal attack. It became so popular within that period to the point that when the Kaduna State issue also arose under what the El-Rufai, it now became that it was a reprisal attack.
Yes,
and we continue to hear that.
Would you now blame the people doing these reprisals? Because I mean, you keep coming to my house and killing me and my kids. I am not in any way making excuses.
Exactly.
But I'm saying this is starting to sound like a repercussion when the law is not being applied. It's not doing what it should do. The law should be able to stop these things from happening, so that people are not saying, I have to defend myself. Because if you hear the comrade, and this is conversation that keeps rising over and over again, people are saying, people should be allowed to defend themselves since they can't be defended by the apparatus of the state that should be defending them. Anyway, we have to move on to another issue today. It's VOP Roundup. But before we do, I have this to say to Governor Caleb Mutfwang of Plateau State. These are your people. You campaigned in the rain and in the sun, and you promised these people to protect them. And right now, some of them are dead. Of the people dead, some of them stood in the sun, in the rain. They campaigned for you, and they celebrated after you won. After they campaigned for you, they voted for you. They celebrated after you won. After you won at the Supreme Court, there was jubilation. People danced in their numbers out in the streets. It's time to deliver on your promise. Your people are being killed, and a curfew doesn't cut it anymore.
At all.
Saying you've got it covered doesn't cut it anymore. Statements don't cut it anymore. It's time for you to put your foot on the ground and end this once and for all. We cannot keep burying our brothers and our sisters, and you sit in the government house and put statements out there. We need to come to a halt of this. There's no way you're going to say that this is beyond you.
At all.
We don't want to believe that it is beyond you. We don't want the faith that Nigerians, that indigents of Plateau State have put in you to be dashed. We've been disappointed over and over again. So I implore you, Governor Caleb Mutfwang, please rise to the occasion. Let this be the final time that we have to come back, sit down in chairs and talk about this. Let this be the last time that people of Plateau State are sleeping with one eye closed and one eye open. This is your job, and please do not fail the people of Plateau State. That being said, let's head on to other stories. Vice President Kashim Shettima was in Davos last week, a couple of weeks back, for the World Economic Forum, where he said that Nigeria was the next global frontier. Or he said Africa, actually, was the next global frontier, stating that if Nigeria works, then Africa works. He went on to comment further when he was in an exclusive interview with Arise TV, and he said that Nigeria isn't going to world powers from a place of vulnerability. We're going from a straight place of strength. And he made a statement that Nigeria isn't a poor nation. Now, this sparked a lot of conversation across the board. A lot of people were saying, what? Nigeria isn't a poor nation? Well, let's hear what he has to say.
We are not a poor nation by any standard. We are not a poor continent. We want to deal with people on a pedestal of equality. We do not come to the West with a begging bowl, no. We want to deal with them on mutually beneficial terms, because ours is the richest continent in the world. The whole countries of Europe, their resources are not up to the resources in the Democratic Republic of Congo. This is why I said we carry our poverty with dignity. We are not here. Wherever we go to have mutually beneficial relationships with Western nations and with Western entities.
Well, another controversy or controversial submission there, don't you think? In one breath, you're saying we're not a poor country by any standard. In another statement, in the same breath, you're saying that we carry our poverty with dignity. Now, I want us to begin this conversation, Adifolarin, with defining what it is to be a poor country. How do you qualify?
If you check the dictionary tell you that poverty definition is relative. It depends on the angle you are taking it from, and probably maybe you're taking it from the angle of our rich mineral resources.
He said by any standard.
By any standard.
By any standard. That is where we are starting to have concerns. Because
people will put every inch into that word by every standard. But for me, it's about the resource of the nation. That's why I say that we are not poor. But when I talk about the disbursement and the allocation of the resources, we have more poor people who are suffering. And when the government say they want to ensure that they have equality in the space of Nigerian society, I doubt if they really meant to do that, because at the end of the day, we knew how the elite in our political space accumulate and take advantage of the resources to themselves and begin to get richer and get wealthier than the people themselves. So poverty is relative, but in concrete terms, in reality, Nigerians are poor.
Nigeria, right? Nigeria, right, is the world's second largest poor population after India.
Definitely.
Now, How can we see this as both a strength and a weakness? Now, I know that Shetima mentioned while he was speaking that in every four, he said our number is our strength. In every four black people, one is Nigerian. So we are the strength of Africa in his perception or by his definition. The question that I do have to ask, sadly, we're running out of time.
We have to do that just sharply.
Real quick. What is the quality? What is the quality of that one in four? What's the quality of the Nigerian person before we even country? And is it fair to say we are not a poor nation?
If you look at it critically, Nigerians are not poor. But what makes us to be poor?
Critically,
we are not poor when you look at the quality that you are asking for. Intelligence, we have it. Human resources, we have it. How to disburse these same resources, we have it. But the problem has been the administration of all this quality that you are talking about. The intelligence have been badly managed. The human resources has been badly managed. The human capital itself has been badly managed.
Can a professor be poor?
A professor who knows it.
Can a professor be poor? Do we have poor professors in Nigeria?
We don't have them, but we have the ones.
We do not have poor professors in Nigeria, Adefolarin.
Get it? We don't have them, but the ones that may want to make themselves to be poor will be poor. You know why? The definition of poverty have really told us that how you can relate with poverty in terms of, most of us look at poverty from the realms of resources, material consumption, material ability, and the rest of them. But we know that we have people who go beyond that level, intelligent wise. As we are sitting on this deck, operating this now, somebody may say, this guy is very, very rich and intelligent. Another person can say, he has poverty of communication. You get it? So you can relate it in different ways. So, but on Nigerians particularly, when it comes to the material consciousness, Nigerians in terms of what we get, me and you, per se, somebody can see me and say he's a poor man. That's why he's talking on radio. Because he knows that the material resources that he has, I don't have it. But should we continue to base the analysis of Nigerians on because of material possession by each individual? But rather, let us look at the collective wealth of our nation. And that's where the vice president is taking it from. But we must not allow him to drop it as the final note. Because the translation of that national wealth supposed to help one and each one of us to come up to the level that we can now have that equality they are talking about.
Well, we're going to continue this. We're going to pick up this conversation from where we left it tomorrow. Exactly. Because of want of time. This is what I'm going to say. Nigeria does have a large population. And that can be an asset.
Definitely.
But then again, the quality of the population matter. We cannot, like I always say, bury our heads in the sand and pretend we do not have problems. Dishing out these kind of statements make us start to wonder whether or not the government of the day have built a bubble and they've decided to live within it and they do not understand the reality that is on ground. And that will not be a fair thing to the people of this nation. So this is what I'm going to say. The wealth of this nation has not been well utilized.
Definitely.
In every sense of it. Nigeria is a poor nation. It's the second poorest large population in the world. When we start to deal with it like that, we're going to get it right. That being said, thank you very much for being a part of the program. We're in want of time today. Tomorrow we'll pick up the conversation, like I said, from here. Don't forget, you owe yourself and your community the responsibility of keeping yourself and your family safe. Be vigilant. Pay attention to what is going on around you. And a keynote to the FCT minister: there are parts of Abuja that are dark at this hour. Street lights are not functioning, and this is an invitation to criminality and criminals. Let's try to keep our country safe. I'm Chinwe Blessing, and have a beautiful evening.